Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials, and welcome to Construction Disruption. We're real excited about today's episode. As always, we have a great guest, so let's go ahead and get things going. So, of course, here on the show, we cover a wide variety of topics, and we have a wide variety of guests, and this episode is no different. Today, we're talking with Matt Vetter, president of Schafer Construction, based in Brighton, Michigan. As head of a construction company that does a wide variety of work from industrial and commercial buildings to multifamily, religious, educational buildings, and everything in between, Matt sees some of the unique and varied challenges that are faced by our industry. And aside from his work at Schafer, he is facing these challenges head on in a number of ways, trying to solve them for our industry and to take us all to a higher level. We're going to dig into all that here in just a little bit. But first, Matt, welcome to Construction Disruption. Pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Todd. I've been excited to come on. I know we scheduled this quite a while ago, so I'm glad it's finally here.
Well, I am as well. So a lot of times we start the show with a really lame dad joke, and sometimes we have a co-host, so we do those in between us. Well, you're going to be the victim of my dad joke today, if that's okay.
Hey, fire away.
Okay, so I read the other day that the average dog barks 267 times a day. That seems like a lot. I have one that barks probably a lot more than that and one a lot less. Of course, keep in mind that 267 is only a rough estimate. Rough, got it?
See what you did there.
Yeah, that's as good as it gets. Anyway.
It's a good estimator joke.
Well, we want to focus on things that you're doing today to help our industry, because I think you're really doing some unique and special things to benefit our industry. But first of all, start out by telling us a little bit about your own history, how you got involved with Schafer Construction and became head of it. And give us an overview of the types of work that Schafer Construction gets involved with.
Sure. So I started in the construction world when I was 17 years old. I worked for a residential framing and remodeling crew. We did custom homes and additions, remodels, decks, garages, you name it. I did residential work via that company and another company that I formed way back then for a number of years. 2008 came around and the residential markets, as everybody knows, kind of took a tailspin, to put it lightly.
Remember it all too well. Yes.
Yeah, I do too. Luckily, by the grace of God, I had an opportunity kind of fall in my lap to jump ships and move from the residential world into the commercial world. And I spent the next decade building quick serve pizza restaurants across the country. You could probably guess which one, but when the economy had tanked, cheap pizza was a pretty hot item. So we were busy. We were building hundreds and hundreds of these things a year. And it was fun. It was, I made great money, but I traveled a ton, and that kind of took its toll on me after a while. So I put roots back down here in southeastern Michigan, headed up a pre-construction department for a large local general contractor here for a number of years. And then, as luck would have it, had another opportunity to come out to Brighton, Michigan, and purchase Schafer Construction. So that's what I did. I kind of jumped on it. When opportunity knocks, you should open the door every single time.
Love that.
Little quick background on Schafer. We've been in operation since 1997. We build literally everything other than single family homes. So as you mentioned, a lot of light industrial, office product, although not as much office today as we used to, religious institutions, recreational facilities, municipal projects, you name it, we will tackle it. So it's been a great last 7 years, and we're looking forward to the future.
How is the construction industry in Southeast Michigan right now? There's a lot of work going on and a lot still on the books, or what are you seeing out there?
To be honest, Todd, we have not seen any slowdown whatsoever.
Awesome.
We're still feeding off of the pent up demand from the COVID mess, and that continues to kind of feed our revenue goals, and we'll take it.
Well, that's great. And what I find so often is the companies that are doing things well, they tend to weather some of those ups and downs a whole lot better than the others. So good for you. So Brighton, Michigan, there's a ski slope there, isn't there? Or am I mistaken on that?
Well, you're right, Mount Brighton. I
Okay,
spent
Mount Brighton.
the majority of my childhood and teenage years snowboarding out here.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, my business partner is actually from Northwest Ohio, Napoleon, Ohio, and I believe Brighton is one of the areas his family used to go skiing years ago. So one of the things is I picked around on Schafer Construction's website, and it was really through your foundation that you've started that I first came to know you. But as I picked around on Schafer's website, your core values really hit me. A lot of times, core values are just one word, and you kind of see the same thing on everyone's site. But yours are really specific and a little bit more defined. So your core values are put the project first, be the problem solver, love that. Always embody honesty and integrity. Be respectful and have a 100 and 0 mindset. Tell us a little bit about what those core values mean to your company and even how they impact your daily activities.
Great question. And I love answering it because they mean literally everything to the company. We made a conscious effort about 6 years ago to really shift our focus from just your standard construction company to a firm really doing great things. And we recognize that the way to do that is to build a culture. And the way to build a culture is to base your company on a very strict and rigid set of core values. So we came up with this list, and it's changed a bit over the years, but not much. We hire by these values. We fire by these values when necessary. We vet potential clients and partners by these core values. It's far more than a pretty picture on the wall in our conference room. It really is it's our North Star. It guides us in everything we do.
That's cool. Well, your last core value, the have 100 and no mindset. Give me a little bit of background, or what that means to you.
Yeah, so that's the one that everyone asks about, and it's actually my favorite. And so 100 to 0 mindset is the mentality that when we commit to going and doing anything, whether that's going after a prospect, whether it's a project we've signed, whether it's starting a foundation, doesn't matter. If we're going to commit resources and commit our brain power to going after something, we're going to fight so fiercely to win that we want to run the score up on our opponent 100 to 0. There are no opportunities for anything less. It is we are going to crush anyone in our way respectfully, and win. And that's how we continue to operate to this day.
Oh, I love it. And what a great rallying cry that becomes for your entire organization to have that kind of mindset. Love it. That's great. One of the things I've been talking some about lately is I'm seeing a lot in some of the leadership books out there about how core values are really what a lot of companies are focusing on now more than mission, because I think in our fast changing world, sometimes that mission has to stay a little bit fluid. But it's going to be fluid within the boundaries of your core values. Is that kind of what you find also?
Yes, because the precision it takes to set up a mission statement that it can weather the time, right? Weather your entire existence as a company, it's almost immeasurable, and it's almost impossible to do because the economy is always changing, the environment's always changing, your clientele changes. There's so many things changing, and so I think that having that core values really as a structural piece to stand on, it allows you to almost manipulate your mission statement as you continue to progress and grow through the industry.
Absolutely. I love it. And it's just been interesting how I've seen that I really first started taking note of it from a lot of leadership things probably 6, 8 months ago, but just makes a whole lot of sense. And if you can get your entire organization driving behind the same core values, that's going to carry you a long way. So back in January of 2021, I believe, which was kind of the height of COVID for a lot of folks, like many folks, including those of us here at Construction Disruption, you decided to start a podcast that you named the Construction Corner. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do on the show and what your goal is through the podcast?
Yeah, so just to clarify a bit, I joined an existing show. One of my very best friends, Dylan Mitchell, started it a couple years prior to that. I joined as co-host in 21, and our goal in that show is really to bring awareness to the industry that we both know and love, that we all know and love. We had have a very wide variety of guests on that can speak to different areas of construction. We never really focused too heavily on the commercial versus residential side. Dylan, my co-host, is an electrical engineer. I'm obviously a former carpenter, so I'm one step above a pirate. But I do like to talk from time to time. So the two of us kind of had that opposite side of the prospect table mentality to go about these conversations. So it's been a lot of fun and had a lot of good conversations through that.
Man, that's great. And I find that you can learn so much also.
Just seconding that, you learn a ton by having conversations.
So just to tell our audience, we are doing challenge words again this episode. No, pirate was not Matt's challenge word, but kind of keep our ear out for any words that we might use that might be a little bit different, that we have both been challenged to work into the conversation. Later on the show, I'll tell you whether we were successful or not. So yeah, no, I love it. So you've got quite a few episodes under your belt now also with the podcast.
Oh yeah, we're at, I don't remember, a few hundred by now.
They build up quick, that's for sure.
Yes.
Well, that's cool. We'll keep up the good work. I've been listening to it a little bit here and there and want to make it part of my regular listening. My problem is I only have about a 10-minute commute to and from work every day. That would be my podcast time, but it's a pretty short drive. So after that, then just earlier in 2024, and this was kind of where I first became aware of you, Matt. I saw a press release or something that you had out there. You started something called the Build Better Foundation. And your tagline for the foundation is "Make the Trades Cool Again," which I love. I assume you started the Build Better Foundation because you saw a concern in the construction industry that you wanted to try to address, in particular, maybe in Michigan. Can you tell us a little bit about what you saw that became the impetus for you to say, hey, I want to do something about this?
It's a systemic problem that frankly all of us in the industry are to blame for, and it's been going on for the past 20 plus years, in that we allowed the public school systems in particular to really beat college as the only option into our heads and into now the heads of our children and their children. When I was growing up and when I was in high school, it wasn't trade school then, it was called Voc Tech, and it was looked at as it was the option for the burnouts, for the kids who couldn't graduate. It was low tier option mentality, and there was never a push or even the conversation that there's alternatives out there to a 4-year degree. And construction is obviously an industry that, while 4-year degrees are valuable to some aspect in what we do, it's not a requirement. And it's been going on for forever. And it's just something that kind of has been boiling inside me for a very long time. We don't have young people flooding into the industry like we need. You asked me earlier how the market is here, and it's great. The problem is we have all the projects that we need. What we don't have is the people to build them. And, Schafer Construction is a paper GC. We don't self-perform anything. We manage the deals and the projects. So the labor market for us is not as critical, but all of our specialty contractors, our trade partners, they rely on that. And So what Build Better Foundation is aiming to do, and our first initiative now is we're actually having a launch party in a couple of weeks. We're going to start providing scholarships to kids or to anyone looking to get into either a trade school or even a 4-year CM program or an apprenticeship, something just to kind of help them get a little seed money, whether it's paying for books, paying for tools, paying for boots. I don't really care. The goal is to do our little bit that we can to try and help raise awareness and try and get more interest and involvement in the industry that frankly we all love.
No, I hear you, and I love and applaud what you're doing. It's funny, a few years ago, um, when unemployment rates, just were running so low, and they were telling us, gosh, they're lower than even the number of people who don't want to work. And I think that brought a lot of attention, and people started focusing on the construction trades and the shortages. But you hit the nail on the head. We started experiencing this 20, 25 years ago, just with a lower influx of new folks into our great industry here. So, yeah. I know that you're raising funds and you're going to start the scholarship program. Any other, insight as far as what you're doing, or, how are you managing to gain traction with the foundation and get some interest out there? I can imagine we've got some listeners that are saying, wow, I ought to start that in my area. Tell us a little bit about, how you get this off the ground and make it happen.
It's not been easy.
Yeah.
Contrary to popular belief or to my mistaken belief, setting up an actual 501c3 is a tremendously difficult process. And go figure, the IRS doesn't make it easy for you to not pay taxes. So it's been kind of a labor of love that took, frankly, almost a year before we were able to launch. Social media is great. As much as I love to hate it, it helps us get our word out. It's how I met you, Todd, and
Okay.
That's been huge for us. Podcasting is another media choice where it's low cost, but it's high reach, and it's just a matter of a pyramid stack. And if we can have one conversation today, but you've got 50 or 100 or however many listeners, the hope is each one of those listeners might take a piece of this and then go talk to somebody else. And it just keeps kind of spider webbing from there. So we don't do a lot of, typical marketing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, as a startup, we're pretty strapped for budgeting. We want to put most of the money that we have into actually helping those folks who are trying to get into the industry versus, spending it on ad spend or things like that.
Well, it's interesting. So I'm involved with a national trade organization that started a scholarship program recently, and interestingly, as we looked at it, our initial scholarships are not even requiring you to be in the trades. I think we want to get there eventually, but we were we're not sure we can even give away these scholarships if we restrict it to that, and we were restricting it to children or grandchildren of members of the organization.
Okay.
But so I agree with you. These things take a little bit of time, but on the other hand, that's kind of what makes you a change maker out there and what drives some changes. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, what is it in you? I mean, you could live just fine. You could still be building pizza stores, but you could live just fine heading up Schafer Construction and not have to have all these other things on your plate. What is it that kind of drives you personally, saying, "Hey, I want to be a bigger part of change than this"?
That's a pretty deep question, Todd. I wasn't
I
expecting
know.
that. It's a good question. I candidly, I've done really well in my career, and I've proven to myself, I've proven to my family and my friends that this is not just a viable career choice, but it's a potentially very lucrative and very successful career choice. And you're right. I could do nothing else, and I could do less than I do and still be perfectly fine. But it sounds a little cheesy, but I want to make my mark, right? We build great buildings, and that's fine and good. We build a lot of cool stuff at the construction company, but if I can do a very small part, if we through the organization can do a small part to then boost the industry that's allowed us to find this success, it's like a triple win for me. So that's kind of, it's that 100 to 0 mindset, right? I don't want to stop. So I like stacking up the chips. I like seeing the wins. And if I can promote and provide an opportunity for somebody else to also then see those wins, then that's all I can ask for. That's great for me.
Yeah, I love it, and you're right. It's so easy, and I'll even have people come into my life or saying, "Todd, slow down. You got to do less." I know I'm doing what I'm driven to do, and what I feel like I'm called to do. Well, I'm kind of curious. Speaking of that, how do you balance it all? Where do you find the space and the place to kind of recharge yourself and be able to keep all these plates spinning?
So I get asked that all the time, and people say the same thing. You need to slow down. You need to find more balance. And I'm not going to swear on your podcast, but I find that the term work-life balance is BS. There is, when you're an entrepreneur, there is no such thing. There is no such thing at all. What there is, though, is finding a way that you can satisfy all of your needs and the needs of those around you who rely on you, while still keeping the ship afloat. And I think that's different than balance in my mind anyways. So, I've got three boys and a wife and some dogs. And, there's a lot of needs out there. There are a lot of buckets that I need to fill, but in my mind, I can't do any one of those without all of the others also.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I, especially in the summer, I tend to be a pretty big baseball fan, and of course, my team is the Reds. You might be more of a Tigers fan up there, but it's interesting as I watch those players. And I love seeing the stories about them personally because of what it takes to them to be, an elite level athlete like that. And, make no mistake about it, they are. I mean, they're doing things every day that the rest of us could never dream of doing, even though we may look at it and think we could. Um, and yet, you talk about them and how do they achieve work-life balance? And I agree with you. It's kind of baloney. And I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but I guess, you talk about, okay, well, they're an athlete and they're doing what they're called to do. Well, those of us in business are doing what we're called to do also. And it takes commitment and it takes a lot of drive and perseverance and a lot of hard work. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you, and you're right. I mean, I'm more of a basketball guy myself,
There you
so
go.
I'll relate things to Michael Jordan or to Kobe Bryant. Those two, uh, they were in the gym at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they
Yeah.
were in the gym immediately after games. And there's a different mentality that you have to be successful as an owner, and not everyone needs that. We don't want everyone to be an entrepreneur or a leader of a company. We need people that just want to work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Absolutely.
I just think that's part of the burden that we bear as entrepreneurs is the lack of that admitted work-life balance concept.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I'm kind of curious, who have been some of the strong mentors or positive influencers in your life along the way? Anyone in particular come to mind?
My father is a huge one. He
Awesome.
suffered a massive setback professionally when I was in high school, and rather than tuck and tail and admitting defeat and laying down for the rest of his life, he turned it around and started his own company. Which was kind of my first real taste of entrepreneurship, and I saw that and I thought, wow, dad's his own boss. How the heck do you do that?
Hmm.
So that was a pivotal moment in my life, and I've learned a lot through those experiences. Certainly, I have other mentors along the way too, but I would say is a kind of life altering moment. That was it.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, you're a lot younger than me, but you and I have very similar stories because I've got similar experience with my father also. So, very interesting. Well, Matt, this has been a great time talking to you. We're kind of close to wrapping up what we kind of call the business end of things. And here in a little bit, we'll give you a chance to share all your contact information. But is there anything we haven't covered today that you wanted to be sure and share with our audience?
No, I think we've touched on it. Obviously my big focus right now outside of the construction company is the Build Better Foundation. So any way anyone can help, either financially or just helping to get the word out is always appreciated.
Cool. And I'm sure you'd love to talk with folks who may want to start something similar in their regions too, and share
Absolutely.
with them what you've learned. That's cool. Well, and I will tell you, if you're someplace in Southeast Michigan and looking to have a building built, Schafer Construction would be a great option to talk to. So that's cool
Yeah,
too.
we do that too.
Well, before we close out, I am going to invite you to take part in something we call our rapid fire questions. They're not really that rapid, but we'll do them as quick as we can. So these are 7 questions kind of out of the blue that you have no idea what we're going to ask. Are you up to the challenge of rapid fire?
Fire away.
Cool. And I think I said we're going to ask. I guess it's going to be me. But anyway, question number 1. What is a product or service that you've purchased in recent years that has been a real game changer for you? Sort of a where have you been all my life moment?
I joined a entrepreneurial mastermind called the Arate Syndicate about 4 years ago, and it has been an absolute game changer. I wish I had started much sooner.
So, for our audience that doesn't know, tell us a little bit about how that mastermind group works. Does it meet once a week, once a month, virtual, I assume?
Yeah, it's virtual meetings primarily. There's a call 3 times a week on Zoom. There's
Wow.
or, I'm sorry, 3 times a month on
Okay.
Zoom. A Facebook group, and then a few times a year there are opportunities for in-person meetups. All of which I've done all the above, and it's from a business ownership perspective, it is 1,000% changed the trajectory of where Schafer Construction is going and where we were, and it's been a very beneficial thing.
Cool. Good for you. That's great. Question number 2. If you could have any superpower, what superpower would you choose to have and why?
I've always thought flying would be cool. I don't really know why. Maybe to cut down on my commute. Maybe so I don't have to fly commercial. So I guess until I get my first jet, being able to fly like Superman would be kind of fun.
There you go. Sounds good to me. Okay. Question number 3. Do you have a bucket list vacation?
I have a lot of bucket list vacations. My wife and she's of a very similar mindset to me, and we're always working on something. So we've become very good at kind of coupling our travel options with our entrepreneurial ventures. So everywhere we go to, we always are going kind of with the look in the eye of, how can we turn this into something new? How can we turn this into either another business or an opportunity? And so really anywhere we go that we haven't been yet are bucket list adventures to us.
Good deal. Well, this next one is a would you rather question.
Uh-oh.
Would you rather have spaghetti for your hair or maple syrup for your sweat?
Boy, that's equally disgusting. I think I would go with maple syrup, I guess. And I don't have a good answer.
Interesting. Yeah.
I like maple syrup more than I like spaghetti. We'll leave it at that.
See, I would take the spaghetti because I haven't had hair in about 30 years. So
There you go.
I'd have to go with that. Okay. Another would you rather question. Would you rather have a permanent clown face or would you rather always have to wear giant clown shoes?
Um, I'm a shoe guy. I'd go with the shoes. I like my Jordans and my cowboy boots, but I'd add some clown shoes into the mix.
There you go. Love it. Okay, next to last question. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would you choose to have dinner with?
Historical figure. I would probably go with a John Adams or a Paul Revere type figure, just to kind of pick their brain on what their mindset was, what their core values were when they were working on the revolution and the Constitution and that phase of our country's existence. That'd be pretty neat to me to understand more on a deeper level, especially given where we are today.
Yeah, I agree. Cool. And I love the flag. You said if there behind you, you said a friend made that for you.
He did. I have a good friend. He owns a company unrelated to woodworking, but he's also a pretty accomplished woodworker. So he made this and shipped it shipped it over from New Jersey, and it's hung on my wall ever since.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Last question. What would you like to be remembered for at the end of your days?
I think that's easy. Everybody wants to be remembered for making a difference, making a positive change. And that kind of goes along with the question you asked me earlier and why I do all that I do. It'd be pretty boring to me to just live a mediocre existence. That's never interested me. Never been a guy that wanted to punch a clock and go sit down and watch TV every night. So I can turn my time into valuable production and make a positive impact.
Good for you. Well, you are well on the path to making that difference, and you are making that difference. So it's been great. So, Matt, thank you again. For folks who want to get in touch with you or learn more about Schafer Construction or the Construction Corner podcast or the Build Better Foundation, what are the best ways for them to do that? And we'll put this information in the show notes as well, by the way.
I appreciate that, Todd. Easiest way to get a hold of me is my personal LinkedIn. It's Matt Vetter. Pretty easy to find. The company website is schaferconstruction.net. Through that site, you can get to the Build Better Foundation also. So it's all a pretty easy one-stop shop.
Cool. Well, we encourage everyone to check that out and especially check out what Matt's doing through the Build Better Foundation. And it's an important part of continuing our industry and hopefully improving on our industry. And so check that out for sure. So, Matt, I have to ask you, did you get your challenge word in?
I sure did. I used precision when I talked about the precision of crafting a mission statement that can withstand the test of time.
Man, you did it well. You're right. I remember it now, but went right over my head at the time. I worked mine in, which was traction. Didn't use it that way, but for all you business owners out there, Matt and I were talking about the book Traction, great business leadership book, business management book. So we highly recommend that if you're looking for something. Matt, this has been great. Thank you so much. It's been really good to get to know you and learn more about what you're doing. Keep up the great work.
I appreciate it, Todd. It's been fun.
Well, and thank you to our audience for tuning into this very special episode of Construction Disruption with Matt Vetter of Schafer Construction based in Brighton, Michigan. Please watch for future episodes of our podcast. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or YouTube. We always have great guests just like today, and we appreciate that. But until the next time we're together, keep on disrupting and challenging, looking for better ways of doing things. And don't forget to have a positive impact on everyone you encounter. Make them smile, give them encouragement. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.